Hi, this is a video that's going to cover how to get your Racing X times into rankings. We're going to cover this using sports systems, so those of you that are using high-tech, some of this might not apply, but obviously there are some key concepts that cover both. First thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to assume that everybody is familiar with what Racing X is and the concept of Racing X. So essentially what we need to do is basically run a meet, but obviously this meet's only going to contain swimmers from our own club that we've held within our own club's time. So let's just go down a few key points in the conditions. Obviously one to note there is obviously any Category 1 members currently are going to be automatically upgraded to Category 2 for the remainder of this year. Just need to make sure that next year obviously we've got people in the right category, otherwise that could throw us an error. Obviously pretty standard that age is as of the 31st of December, so we don't need to worry with that. Some people obviously that run time trials or local sort of club meets may have like age on the day. Now you can do that if you want to, but obviously as it's going to be submitted, and for Racing X purposes all the ages are the 31st of December of the year. There's nothing really else in there that's applicable to obviously us creating our meet. All pretty standard stuff. Obviously all the events that you can do. Obviously our events have got to be covered by one of the Racing X distances. So, and obviously 21 is Sports Systems are going to provide a free version of the meet organisation software. So all you have to do is basically email support@SportsSyst and get that free version. So what I've done for this demonstration is I've got myself a demonstration key from Sports Systems. So I will be using the free version of meet organisation to demonstrate how we're going to do this in Sports Systems. I'm going to go through a pretty basic method, but hopefully it's the method that should guarantee us the least amount of problems and errors at the end of the situation. So if you've not already got Meet Organisation installed on your computer, go and grab it. You can get it from sportsys.co.uk, go to the Meet Organisations part and click download, and then download the Meet Organisation installation file. You'll obviously need your license key as well, so if you email Sports Systems and get that, they're obviously offering the free version, which is cut down and limited just so you can get the Racing X done. Once you've got it all installed and you've got your key and everything, open up Meet Organisations. Obviously if you need to put your key in, go to License Management, enter your club's code and key into there. The other thing you will need as well is your personal key. What the personal key does is allows you to pull down information for your club, so swimmers and all their information. So that would need to go into there. If you've not got it, you can get that off the swimming results site under members, and then member options. You get this page and you'd enter your login and get your personal key from in there. We need to get our meet set up. So what I'm going to suggest for ease is basically for every Racing X event, so each session that you do, you basically create a new meet and you obviously just add the swimmers in that you need just to kind of narrow down any cause of issues. So I'm going to run a Racing X meet tomorrow. So I'm going to create a new meet in Sports Systems. So I'm just going to go new meet. I'm just going to call this Racing X Monday. Obviously, if you're going to be creating a couple of different meets, just make sure that this folder is obviously unique and give it a name. So I'm just going to call RX for Racing X, and then I'm just going to call this Monday. Everything else can just be left to default, really. You can put in what time it is, so it's going to be tomorrow, Monday, and I'm going to set it to 6 p.m. Apart from that, everything else can just stay the same, and we can go on to the next screen. On the next screen, you can obviously populate this information, but as this meet hasn't really got any paperwork, I'm not really going to be printing anything off for it. I'm just using it to submit my times. I don't really need anything on there. I'm not running any scoring, so I can just save that. And then we're into our session. So as I said, we're just going to use one session, which is our tomorrow night, and I'm just going to basically run all the hundreds in that one. So to start off with, what I do is I just select my session, and then start with a number. So most meets start with 101, but you can choose start with whatever number you want. It could just be 1. Obviously, if you're running boys only events or girls only events, that's fine. But as this is just time trial in the club, I'm just going to run it as a mixed event. So I'm just going to select boys and girls. Age group, as again this is a time trials, there's no awards, there's nothing like that, so I'm just going to run an open age group. And to do that, just start typing open and it should just appear in there. Rounds, this is going to be heats, and it's going to be declared winners because we're not going to be running any finals or anything like that. And we'll just be using our open age group as defined. So nice and simple there. And once I've selected all that stuff, I would just add the event. So then I've got a boys and girls event, 100 free. So I need to go and add our backstroke. So the backstroke event, just going to put this number 1 on for our second event, 102. And add that one in there. In it goes, nice and easy. You can use this button obviously to flick over the number as well. And we'll change to our breaststroke, 103. Add that one in as well. And our last event, 104, going to add in as the 100 meters fly. Boys and girls, so there you go. So there's my 4 events in my schedule. So when I'm happy I've got my schedule all up to date, we can file that schedule. So you just click File, and I want to set up the entries. And click Continue. Obviously, as we're doing this internally in the club, we're not charging for it, so I'm just going to put zeros in here and just default that to family name and England as we're in England. Everything else can pretty much just stay the same. So apply that. Definition finished created, brilliant. And then we'll be dumped back out to load the meet in. So if it's been successful, we can see that our folder is there and our race next Monday meet has been created. Okay, so we got our meet loaded in now. The next thing we need to do is we need to get some swimmers in there. So there's going to be 2 ways I'm going to show you this. What I'm going to try and do is avoid any sort of manually typing of names, date of birth or anything like that in, just because that is where the most of any errors or typos come into play. So what we're going to do is we're going to use 2 methods. One is to download our valid swimmer file and basically pick our swimmers from that list, or to actually just add all the swimmers in using their ASA numbers, and that way we can guarantee that the data it's pulling down is correct. So the first way, obviously, if you're going to use your valid swimmer file, you would go to Tools, making sure obviously you got your personal key in there, otherwise this won't work, and you click Download Valid Swimmer File, which will go away, and it will download the valid swimmer file for the club that you're registered in. So I'm registered in as Wigan, so obviously I will pull down Wigan's swimmers. Okay. Either way, you're going to have to go and put the swimmers in manually. In the free version, this is obviously locked down, so you can only do keyboard entries. There's no entry manager, there's no consolidated entry file, although I wouldn't recommend doing either way. Consolidated entry file, just because you're pulling it in from a method that could, bring in some errors or bring in some uncertainty. And obviously entry manager, then obviously you're bringing it in from somebody else that's doing this process. So where possible, it might just be easier just for you to do it yourself. So into keyboard. Now at this point, if you've downloaded your valid swimmer file, it'll ask you if you want to use it, and obviously pick off your swimmers. But I'm not going to use it. I'm going to use it. I'm going to do it the other way. But also, I don't want to disclose all the information of my whole club. Okay, and as you see, I've already added in a few swimmers here as a test, and I've already started to put them in some events. So if I would just delete myself off, and I'll show you the process of putting somebody in. Okay, so when you initially set it up, you're going to have nobody in this file, and there's going to be nobody in there. So the first thing you have to do is click the Add button on either the boys or the girls section. So I am a boy, so I will insert on the boys. Click Add. And at this point, you could enter all this information manually, but as I said, we don't want to bring in that risk of errors. So I'm going to use the ASA lookup. So that'll go away to Swim England now and get my details. Notice that my given name there is Richard, whereas obviously if I was entering a meet, I'd usually use my sort of short name Rick. But obviously if I did that, that could also throw up an error. So obviously I've come through there all correct. I'm just going to enter which events I want to do. Now, as I don't really care about the seeding for this event, as I'm going to run it completely virtually, and what I mean by that is I'm going to seed this in a second, but I don't really mind which lane I'm going to be in. I literally just want to use it to basically put the times in to get to rankings. So, you know, I'm just going to leave them all as yes. You could, if you wanted to, seed it like you would a normal meet, and then run it slowest to fastest, so you get your slower swimmers in the first heats, and obviously your faster swimmers in the later heats. You could do that, and if you wanted to use that seeding, so if you had 4 lanes at the pool, you could set your pool to 4 lanes and run it that way. Okay, so what I've done just for quickness is I've added in some other swimmers here. Just note that I have actually modified the date of birth of everybody to 0101 and then their year, just so I'm not disclosing any information. Again, I've just put one girl in there. So we've got our 4 swimmers that I've already pre-populated, all just selected yes for all the events. And that is done. Okay, so now we've got our swimmers in. Next thing you need to do is you need to process those swimmers. So I'm just going to process it in all the sessions because I've only got the one anyway. We're not obviously running any entry times or anything like that, so we just need to process this. And there you can see I've got my 4 events with my 4 swimmers in each one. Okay, the next thing we can do is we can actually go and validate all the swimmers that we've got in our meet, and we can do this using reports, entries, and then competing swimmers. Click yes on this one, and then click on OK to see that we've actually created the report now. And the report will be in the format of your meet code, and then mfsw.txt, and that will be put in the meet location. So if you go to this location and find this file, so as you go here, I've gone to that location, and here's my file. It will always be the meet code followed by the same after every one. So we note the location of this. So it's in here. I'm just going to grab that. And then if we go to the swimmingresults.org website again, and under entry tools, and we go to entry membership manager sports systems, you can do the same thing in high tech as well. As a high tech one there, where you can check out, you can validate all the swimmers. So there it gives you a little bit of information about this and tells you what to do. We choose our file, so I'm going to just paste that location in where that file is. Grab the file, it's the text file, open that up, and then click check it. And there you go, you can see our 4 swimmers that we put in, and everything is green. So even if you had gone and manually put swimmers in, you can use this as a check. What I'd say, anything that doesn't match up in here, you know, you need to check and see if it's spelling or so on and so forth. What might be easier is obviously if, say, you've temporarily got some inaccuracies with the ASA or Swim England and you need to submit this meet tomorrow, maybe just accept that there's going to be inaccuracies on your side for now, submit the data, and then obviously get the ASA Swim England to change that at a later date or as soon as you can. Okay, so I'm quite happy now that our swimmers are all fine. I've processed the meet. So the next thing we need to do is we need to seed them into our lanes so we can actually put some times in. So it doesn't matter if obviously you're you're not going to use these lanes, but obviously we do need to do seeding as part of the process. So for that we go day of meet, start lists, and prepare start lists. And you obviously iterate through all your events. So we'll start with the first one. As you can see, our 4 swimmers are there. You could withdraw them if you know a swimmer's not going to be doing it or hasn't done it, just to make that a little bit quicker. Just check the settings. Obviously, it's fine to output to the file, but don't really need the web pages output, and we don't need a printing output. It's just set to spearhead all heats. So if you were doing any kind of, if you were using the seeding to actually seed your lanes for your Racing X events, you can obviously choose which lanes and so on and so forth they're going to be done. Notice that I put this to 10 lanes. we don't have a 10 lane pool at Wigan, we only have 8, but I'm going to do this as 10 lanes just to make the input easier. That way, if I've got 20 swimmers, it's just 2 heats of 10. And I can just go through, find the swimmers and put the times in that I've got from the various Racing X events and pieces of paper or submissions that I've got off our timekeepers. Click accept on that. So once you're happy that everything's in there, we're just going to seed the heat. So that's seeded, so we'll go on to the next one. So 102 now, seed that one as well, and we just iterate through this, seeding and accepting each time until you've seeded the whole lot. So now our event's seeded, we can run our event, or if we've already run it, we can now just go and put the times in. So day of meet, results input. We're just going to use handheld timers because we're just going to put it in manually. If you're so lucky that you can actually use a timing system for whatever reason, you could use that if you wanted to, if it was hooked up to it. But for this demonstration, we're just going to use handheld timers. So if we accept that, and then we can choose our first event, which is our 100 meters freestyle. We can either choose to accept the splits or not. I'm guessing for most people we're not going to be recording splits as this is a completely manual time, so you could just select no on that and continue. And then you'd put in your time for your 100 meter freestyle. So I'm going to be really nice to us all, give us some nice fast times. So as you can see, I've just put 59 in there and it's defaulted that to 59 seconds. Notice the format of the time, it's minutes, colon, the seconds, and the temps, dot the temps and the hundreds. Obviously if you put the time in the wrong format, so here I am, so I put in a dot, I'm going to put colon, 23, it's just not going to let me do that because that is just a ridiculous time. Because that would be essentially 59 minutes. So Sports Systems is quite intuitive in that way. It will help you and not let you put complete and utter rubbish in there. And again, it will actually convert times across. So I just put 61 in there and that converted that to 101. Again, if I put another time in there, I entered 90 in there and it's converted that across to 1 minute 30. Obviously I've just got the one heat of 4 swimmers. Obviously I've got my 10 lanes set, so if I had 10 swimmers they would all be there. And if I had 20 I would have 2 heats. So obviously once you've put your swimmers in, all your swimmers are green, you can select full event results, which will process that event as finished. And obviously if you were running a real meet, it would print off any results and so on and so forth. But as we are not, we're just doing this virtually, just click that and it will close and let me go on to the next event. Again, if you were recording times, you could just leave that selected as yes, click continue, and then you could enter in your time, your finishing time and your 50 meter split. Here, obviously, because we're inputting 2 times, we need to accept them, and obviously we'll get that time to go green again. Obviously, if you don't accept it, you'll just be left as white or yellow, and obviously you won't be able to proceed to the next thing. It will ask you to go back and check it. So we need all that to be green. Once it's green, we can either go to the next heat or select full results. So here we've done that. So we can hit full sets. Once you've processed all your events, I'm just going to pretend I've done that now. Okay, the last thing we need to do after we've processed all our results is basically just to export the meet and upload it to rankings. So in our meet, making sure our meet's still selected, select meet, select export, and then British rankings. Obviously, you're just going to be exporting session by session, so we should just have the one session there. Obviously, we're just exporting for the one club. In my case, is Wigan. Fill out any of your details there. Once everything's selected, select the export button, and the export's completed successfully. And obviously it's given me the location of the export. So there it's in my meet folder, res to rank, and then obviously my meet code and the date and the session, export.zip. So that's what I need to upload to ranking. So just make a note of that, or obviously we can see it within our meet structure. So there it is, it's create this folder, res to rankings, and there is my zipped up export. A couple of things to mention, obviously, on that export screen, if there are any errors at that time, they'll flag up there. Sometimes they can be quite intuitive, like a swimmer, it mentions a swimmer name, or it mentions a time and certain things, so obviously you can go back and check that. Obviously, if there's incomplete bits in there, that'll flag up, and obviously now we can submit that in. Okay, so the last thing we need to do now we've created our export is we need to upload it to the form stack. So as you can see, Swim England have created this submission form. So obviously pretty basic information. So for me, Wigan, put the Wigan Life Centre in there. The date of the swim, so for me that was Monday, which was the 19th. Again, noting that each submission, so obviously I can only submit a session. So obviously, as I explained earlier, hopefully you're just doing one meet per session. Obviously, some of our more experienced users might do multiple sessions within the side meet, but obviously this export needs to be for that one session only. No, it's not masters. Enter out any of our contact details in there. Obviously then we need to choose our results file, which is obviously the file that we selected earlier. So into our meet folder, res to rank, and there it is, our zip folder. So we would open that, and that would be what's uploaded there. As you can see, it says results should be a zip file, and that's what the British Swimming thing results is. It is a Linux output from SPORTSYSTEMS. Any notes you want to clean, and obviously you click submit, and hopefully your submission should be accepted by Rankins and uploaded and appear on the database. As I said earlier in the video, the most common parts of errors obviously around swimmers' date of births, names, missing ASA numbers, but obviously by using either the swimmer file or by getting each swimmer by their ASA membership number, we should alleviate that issue. Obviously, as you saw earlier in SPORTSYSTEMS, the times, it won't really let us put in incorrect times or times that are, completely unrealistic, like half an hour, and so on and so forth. So hopefully that should alleviate some of those issues. Obviously, this is not the quickest method, and it may not be a method you're used to in SPORTSYSTEMS if you're an existing user. And obviously, hopefully, if you're a new SPORTSYSTEMS member, you've obviously seen me walk through that process in this version of SPORTSYSTEMS, and hopefully it should help you get your results in and submitted to Rankins.